Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our How to Make Your Website SEO Friendly webinar. It's sponsored by Orange County Government. My name is Teresa, and I will be your tech support and organizer for the webinar. Our presenter today is Jairo Batista, business consultant and marketing manager with the Florida SBDC at UCF. Now, Jairo received his Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Florida A&M University and an MBA from the University of Central Florida. He's been with the FSBDC for 14 years, helping clients with digital marketing, business planning, and market research. I'm going to give you a little information about our organization. The Florida SBDC Network was established in 1976 by the U.S. Small Business Administration to provide technical assistance to small business. The network is part of a nationwide network of small business development centers with nearly 1,000 local centers across 50 states and U.S. territories. We are funded in part by the U.S. SBA, State of Florida, and local economic business support organizations. We are state designated as Florida's principal provider of business assistance and nationally accredited. The state of Florida consists of 9 SBDC regions. Central Florida region headquarters is in Orlando, Florida, and hosted by University of Central Florida. We cover an 8-county region, which includes Orange, Seminole, Osceola, Lake, Sumter, Volusia, Brevard, and Flagler counties. Some of our local centers are also hosted by state colleges, including Seminole State College, Eastern Florida State College, and Daytona State College. Our primary service is our no-cost expert confidential one-on-one consulting. You come in and meet with a consultant either virtually or in person. With connections to the Florida SBDC Network and UCF, our consultants have access to an extensive amount of market research at no cost to you through our services. And we don't stop when you start. Much like the program today, we continue to support your small business through many stages of growth. Beyond training in our consultants, we offer special programs for second stage businesses within our region. Programs like the CEO Exchange, Advisory Board Council, and award-winning Small Business Institute. Last but not least, we offer a variety of business training seminars and webinars for all stages of businesses as well. Now, a few housekeeping things before we get started. Your mics are muted by default. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the question chat box feature in the GoToWebinar panel at any time. We ask that you please ask questions as we go through the webinar, and we will answer them at the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. Because your questions can sometimes come into us with a delay, we ask that you please be specific as possible so that we know what your question is and how it relates to a slide you may have seen earlier. Please do not use the raise hand feature. We can only take questions and comments through the question box. Copies of today's presentation can be found under your handouts tab on the GoToWebinar panel. The evaluation survey link for this presentation will be emailed to you about an hour after this program finishes. These surveys really give us important information on the presentation and your interests so we can continue to plan programs that are important and beneficial to you. So we ask that you please take a few moments to fill out the evaluation when you receive it, and we will greatly appreciate that. Thank you again for joining us. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Jairo.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Teresa, for the intro. Teresa, my name is Jairo Batista. I'm the marketing manager here at the Florida SBDC at UCF. So to start out, I just want to give a brief definition of what search engine optimization is, just so we have like a clear understanding and a solid foundation for this webinar. So the definition is the process of maximizing the number of visitors to a website by ensuring that the site appears high on the list of results returned by a search engine. Now, when people think about SEO and search engine optimization, they think about the traditional platforms, Google, Bing, Yahoo, and others. But if you think about it and you look at this definition closely, this can also apply to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and some of these other social media platforms. So you can literally optimize things for search on across a lot of different platforms. But for today's conversation, we're going to focus more on the traditional stuff, but more specifically on Google. And why Google? Google has a 92% market share in the market when it comes to search engine. Everything else has a combined 8%. So we are going in, we probably knew that Google was king, but this shows you how dominant Google is in search engines. For those who like Bing and Yahoo, Bing uses a lot of the same factors that Google does. The difference between Google and Bing is Google uses artificial intelligence, and they've been using it for quite a long time. So that gives Google the edge in terms of a better understanding what searchers are looking for. So as long as a searcher is in the ballpark of a certain word, Google understands it and provide results based off that. For those who are thinking about Yahoo, Yahoo obviously was once a very prominent player when it comes to search engines, but now they've taken a step back, and now actually they use a lot of Bing technology. Actually, they're powered by Bing. So if you're using Yahoo, you're technically using Bing as well. But again, for today's conversation, we're going to focus a lot more on Google than any other platform. All right. So regardless of platform regardless of search engine platform you use, the process is pretty similar. The first step is crawling. Crawling is when search engines send out their bots to get an idea of what's out there, what information is available. Indexing is where the online content is stored, organized, analyzed, and stored in huge databases, so search engines can reference to it. So think of it like a library. And then ranking is pretty much a positioning based on the search query. It's more authoritative. It's pretty much what search engines think would be the best solution for that search query. All right. There are over 200 factors when it comes to search engine optimization. I'm just going to go over these 10, but and then if we have time, a few other things as well that impact SEO. These are probably the easiest ones to work with as website, as a business owner, as someone who manages a website. There's a lot of technical aspects. I'm not going to go over that, but if you do have any technical questions, we can meet offline, schedule a meeting, and kind of talk about those things. But for today's conversation, we're going to focus on these things and a few other features that we can take advantage of. So first things first is keywords. Keywords is pretty much a word or phrase in the content of your website that matches the source, a searcher's search query. With keywords, it's pretty much the idea is, as business owners, how is your website content matching or speaking the language of the searcher? As business owners, you are very knowledgeable, very well versed to everything about your industry. You know the technical jargon, you know the acronyms, you know the proper names of products, services, parts, and things of that nature. However, that doesn't mean that searchers or potential customers know those proper terms. So it's very important that you have a good understanding of what people are saying, and how people are saying it. There are a bunch of tools available online that are great tools to help you get an idea of what people are using as keywords. My go-to is actually Google's Keyword Planner, which can be found on the Google Ads platform. You don't have to run an advertisement to use Google's Keyword Planner. You can use it as often as you like, whenever you like. You can download it, a spreadsheet, and reference to it later. It's a great tool to get an understanding of what the search volume is based off a smaller geographic location or a larger worldwide or nationwide geographic area. Once you figure out what keywords people are using, you want to figure out how people are using those keywords. And there are primarily four different types of intent that people will search for. The first is informational, commercial, navigational, and transactional. So informational, people are looking for answers. They're either typing a question or typing a short phrase to get an answer. So for example, they're asking, when is National Donut Day? What day does the time change? How many points did Michael Jordan score throughout his career? Things like that. Commercial is when users are trying to investigate and get a better understanding of products, brands, and services. So think about comparison lists like Nike versus Adidas, or a list of accountants in the area, or a list of website designers in the area. Those are more commercial. Additionally, how many people have went online to look for reviews on different products? That's more of a commercial intent as well. Okay. The next is navigational. This is more straight to the point. This is more so it's someone looking for the website of a specific company and just going from there. So think about somebody who's typing in ESPN or they're typing in YouTube. Instead of typing in ESPN.com, they'll just go to Google, and they'll just type ESPN and they'll just click on that link. That's more navigation. Transactional is more so about people who are ready to take action, people who are ready to make a purchase, people who are ready to take that, whatever that next step is. So, for example, it could be something like, what's the home buying process? You know, what are restaurants near me that deliver? Those types of questions, those types of queries. So again, it's at the basis of your SEO. It's a great start to understand what people are typing in search queries, and then how people are using it, and then creating content based off that. So if you see, for example, that people are asking a lot of questions surrounding your product or service, maybe add an FAQ page, maybe adding a blog. If you notice that your product or service, or even your brand, is coming up on a lot of comparison searches, maybe you write a blog about, you know, you comparing yourself, or you comparing your product with the next product, things like that. Okay, so it's always great to understand how people are speaking online. The next area I want to cover are page titles, and there's kind of two variations of page titles. The first variation is called the title tag. The title tag, like you see here, is a short description of a web page and appears at the top of a browser window and in search engine results pages. So if you see the green box here, that is the title tag from a Google search. Notice here it says New York Times, breaking news, U.S. news, and world news. The primary goal of having a clear title tag is to help improve your click-through rate. And the click-through rate is a very important factor when it comes to search engine optimization. That means the click-through rate is pretty much when somebody clicks a link from search engines to get to your page. The higher the click-through rate, the higher you'll be ranked in the future. Another key component to the title tag is making sure that you add a keyword or phrase in the title to make it more attractive. One of the common mistakes that I see on title tags from clients is that they're either too short, or or just not saying enough to entice the person. So you want to use that as a way to entice the person to click on that link. Now, ideally, you want to keep it 70 characters long. As you notice here at the end of the title tag, or in the title, it says world news ... That means that the New York Times has more to say. It doesn't necessarily hurt you when it comes to search engines itself, because search engines can still pick up that language, but it does hurt you from the viewer standpoint, because we can't read what's at the world news. So try to keep it within 70 characters or less, but be as descriptive and enticing as possible. Okay. The other half of the page title is it's more of a font size, or it's more of an on-page title. So if you look here at this example here, breaking new redevelopment plans for a flea world site in Seminole County take shape, that's a title, that's an on-page title of a page. The page title helps users and searchers understand what the topic is about, and it helps reassure users that they found what they're searching for, and keep people engaged. It's ideally, obviously, you want the title to be at the top of the page, but if you're working with your website, you want to make sure your title is using what's called an H1 font. Here I have it here as H1 HTML heading, but it's really H1 font. You only want to have one piece of text per page that is using H1 font, and that H1 font should be at the very top. If you want to use subheaders and so forth, you can use H2, H3, and so forth to add more style, to add more subtext, or more subtitles, excuse me. Again, with this one, there's no character limitation. The H1 header font, or excuse me, H1 heading on the page does not have to necessarily match up with a title tag on search engines. Does it help? I haven't seen any data that says it helps or hurts, but the one key thing you want to keep in mind when it comes to page titles, whether it's on search engine results pages or on your website, it should include a keyword, and it should be enticing enough for people to want to engage with the content. Again, click-through rate is important, but also there's also what's called dwell rate, where when people stay on your website and take in information, that also helps with your overall SEO. Some key things I want to cover as well when it comes to page titles is, like I said, include relevant keywords, make sure you're writing for the user, and be careful with overdoing it with overstuffing over keywords. These pieces of content are going to be read by users, and it has to make sense to them, and it has to be natural to them when they read it. So don't try to overkill it with different keywords. You're going to have the rest of the website, the rest of the page's content to add keywords and things like that. All right. Okay. So the next area I wanted to cover is called the meta description. And the meta description is a snippet of about 155 characters which summarizes a page's content. You'll find the meta description on search engine results pages, and each page is going to have its own meta description. On the second bullet point, I have website meta description versus individual page description. What I mean by that is the home page is going to be where it's going to be very general. You're going to have very general information when it comes to your meta description. And then the other pages can have to be more page-specific meta description. So here's an example that I just pulled up. So using the same New York Times example, just below the first example, the top example is the home page. It has general information about what the entire website is about. The second one, the one at the bottom, is more specific to Canada. So it's about specific to that page's content. And so with the homepage meta description, or just the general meta description, think overall arching value proposition. Again, with the page level meta description, you're really just speaking about that specific topic. With the meta description, the same rules apply when it comes to as page titles. You want to use keywords, you don't want to overdo it, and you want to write towards the audience, right for the user. The meta description is an indirect way of helping your SEO. It's not a direct way of helping your SEO, but it's indirect. It's indirect because it helps support the page title. And so if somebody, like for example, New York Times, breaking news, U.S. news, world news, that's a page title. Or that's the title tag. If they can't get enough from that, the meta description is active support for the title tag, so people can click on it. Another top area of SEO is website freshness. The website freshness includes a lot of different things. There's been a misunderstanding when it comes to website freshness in the past, at least from what I've seen, where people are redoing the websites over and over again, redoing the design. You don't have to necessarily do that. But here are some things that can help influence page website freshness. First is the page inception. When was the website created, and when was it indexed by Google? The next is the amount of change to the updated page and the number of changes to the core content of the page. Meaning, like that on-page content, that website content. How often did you change? Update information, layout? Did you add new images? Did you add a table? Things like that. The rate of change, the rate of page change. How often did you change the page? And then lastly, how often did you create new pages? Those who blog or are heavy bloggers, they have an advantage when it comes to website freshness because they're always creating new content, creating new pages on their website. So keep that in mind. The goal of Google is not just to be a search engine. The goal of Google is to be more of a solutions engine. So they want to provide quality answers to their searchers and their users. And part of that quality is how up to date is the content they're uploading. The last thing they want to do is list a website that hasn't been updated in 10 years on their first page. That shows lack of quality, and it goes away from what Google is trying to do. The next area is more about images. Now, in general, it's always a good idea to have at least one image per page on your website. However, Google, Bing, and all these other search engines, they view images a little bit differently than the way humans do. So if you look, for example, here, with alt text and alt attributes pretty much means is the image descriptions on the back end of the website. And so you've probably seen captions. I'm not talking about captions below the website. I'm more talking about kind of the internal language of the images that we don't normally see. So if you look at here for these examples, right, we see a picture on the left side. We see a picture of a chiropractor making an adjustment on the patient, and on the right side we see an image of an office building, right? That's how we see images. However, search engines see images like this in the string of code. Now, these codes don't correspond or correlate with the images we saw in the previous slide. These are two other ones that I wanted to highlight. And just for those who are worried, you don't have to worry about typing or working on code. A lot of the website platforms will take care of this. But I just wanted to show you how search engines view images. So all attributes, all text, all descriptions are descriptions of the image, right? So Google is looking for things like this. So ALT equals, and then the language there. So the top picture or the top code, it was a picture of a headshot of a doctor. Google wouldn't, based off this code, Google wouldn't know that it was a picture of a doctor. It would see, it just says IMG 7043. If it were me, I would use the name of the doctor's name, his practice, and any other information that's relevant to that picture. In the second one, it was a picture of a different office building of a medical practice. It was a medical practice. I would have used the name of the medical practice and the address in the picture there. Now, the benefit of having alt attributes is that it describes the pictures to Google, but also, let's say you have an issue with your website and those pictures can't render, that text, the alt attributes or their alt text will show up in its place. Additionally, if you have website visitors with a visual impairment and they're using these digital readers, those digital readers will read the information on the back end of these images. So they're relying on alt attributes and alt text to get a better understanding of those images. So when the digital readers read IMG 7043, it's not really saying much to those people who have a visual impairment. So be descriptive and try to add a keyword in there. Again, you don't need to do keyword stuffing, and try to keep it ideally on under 130 characters for those who use those digital readers. Before we move on to the next slide, I also want to point out something else. So in these boxes right here, those boxes represent what the file name was when they uploaded the image to their website. It said IMG 7043, and then on the bottom one, office_1. Google's reading that as well. So before you upload your images to your website, just rename them to whatever, to an appropriate title, whether it's a name of a person, name of a building, name of a product, whatever that is. You just want to update that so Google can have a better chance with that. Like I said said before, you don't need to understand code. You don't need to write code. With many platforms today, all you have to do is upload the image, and then when you see the option to write an alt attribute or alt text, just start typing away and describing that what that image is about. Some key things to note when you're writing your alt tag or your alt text is be concise. Like I said, 130 characters or less, that's fine. Be accurate. So make sure that information is relevant to the image. Be careful with keyword stuffing. You don't want to overdo it. You don't have a lot. Even though you have a lot of room to write text, you don't, because of digital readers, you only have 130 characters. You don't have a lot to play with when it comes to that limitation. Avoid stating that it's an image. So don't write image of blank or picture of blank. It's already understood that it is an image. And just be careful with redundancy. Meaning, if you're using a caption underneath the image, you don't need to retype the caption into the alternative text. Just make sure that that's descriptive and has some diversity if you're using captions. Okay. Another aspect of digital search engine optimization is your website speed. So ideally, you want to make your website should load up in about 3 seconds or less. Anything beyond that, you're not doing yourself any favors. And a few of the culprits that affect or the impact load time are: one, server host, meaning if your website server can't handle the load, it's going to slow down. If you're using platforms like GoDaddy, Bluehost, BlueGator, those are pretty good platforms. Those have gotten pretty good reviews from business owners as far as being reliable and a speedy server. If you're using a smaller server or an unknown server, I wouldn't say you have to make any changes, but I would monitor those. I would monitor how your website load time from time to time to make sure everything is up and running. Especially if you're a business that's looking to grow and expand and have website visitors from all over the world, it's very important that you have a very solid server. Another culprit, and a big culprit, is your image size. When I say image size, I'm not talking about dimensions. I'm more speaking about file size. So a lot of people will upload an image that has an extremely high resolution. And when I say resolution, I'm talking about the DPI or the dots per inch. Before uploading an image, I highly recommend right-clicking on the image, going down to properties, and reading and looking into what the DPI or the resolution is. If it's 300 DPI, it's way too big for your website. Your website could handle it theoretically, but it's going to slow things down a lot. For computers and websites, 72 DPI is more than enough for it to render a quality picture and still be a small file size. So just keep that in mind. 72 DPI is a good number for resolution. Also, codes. Codes is another culprit. So if you're using platforms such as Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, there's not much you can do with coding because everything's internal, and those templates kind of have their own code. Oh, and just backtrack a little bit. Websites are made by different coding language for it to work. JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Those codes are all three of those codes plus more are working together to create this thing. Like I said, with Weebly, Wix, Squarespace, they kind of take care of that. So there's no room for coding or editing code on your end. But for the most part, those platforms do pretty well. For websites like WordPress, where it's more open source, where you can go in and adjust code, things like that, and manipulate things, you have to worry about that. WordPress users have to worry about that a little bit more because of themes and things like that. There are plugins for WordPress that can help minify or shrink the code, so web browsers can process that information a bit faster. So if you're using WordPress and you have somebody else, a third-party person, develop it, I would contact them about ways to kind of improving that if that's the issue. Plugins is also a WordPress thing. For people who have like a WordPress platform or Weebly, for those who have Wix, Weebly, or Squarespace, you don't have to worry about it. But for WordPress, if you WordPress is pretty much all plugins. Plugins are great. They allow for different features and different cool things to happen. But plugins, depending on the plugin, it could slow your website down. So again, I would speak with your website developer if you use a third-party person to help you select the right plugin. Another thing to do is to minimize or eliminate redirects. So a redirect is pretty much like a call forward. So if you ever called a phone number and automatically forwarded to another number, that's what that does with websites. So you literally type in a website address, and without you having to do anything, it forwards to another address. The more redirects on the website, the longer it takes. So if you have a chain of redirects that lead from point A to point B to point C to point D to the final destination, each step causes an extra second for your website to load. So I would be careful with that. Additionally, if one of those steps breaks or has an issue, it causes what's called a broken link, and that really damages your website SEO. So ideally, if you minimize it to like point A to point B and then to your website, or point A to then to your final website, that's fine. But in a perfect world, I would just have all your resources linked to just that one website address. Everyone just goes to that website address. So there's no reliance on another website address. If that makes sense. Okay. And then lastly, you want to minimize the number of resources to deliver above the fold. So the above the fold area of your web page is pretty much the top half of your web page before anybody has to scroll down to see the rest of the stuff. So the more stuff you load at the very top with codes and plugins and all these different things, the longer it takes for web browsers to process that at the beginning. So just keep that in mind as you're creating your content. That's more, and this is really more for WordPress users on how they divide up or spread out their on-page resources. Okay. Here's a quick tool, or here's a tool that can help you with your gauge your website speed. PageSpeed.web.dev. Google uses it for their content. This is a screenshot of the top half of a quick search I did. There's more at the bottom, but it'll tell you where you're doing well, where the opportunities for improvement are, and things like that. If there are images, they'll tell you, which images are the issues. If it's the code, they'll tell you which issue, which codes are the issues. Again, if you're using a website developer to help you with your website, I would contact them to, I would show this report to them and to see if they can fix it. And notice that here in the screenshot, there's a mobile version of the speed test and the desktop version of the speed test. I would usually run both to see how things are going from each perspective. All right. The next thing is more of a security thing, and it's SSL. So SSL Certificates is a piece of technology that allows you to protect or encrypt the connection between the website visitor and the website itself. So it protects from hackers, or it makes it harder for hackers to try to infiltrate and steal data that's being passed from website user to website itself. Usually, you'll know if a website is has SSL certificate, has that lock next to it on browsers, or if the prefix starts with HTTPS. That S stands for secure. Okay. Now, there are different types of SSL security. So so depending on the type of depending on your website and the type of information you gather, will determine what type of SSL security you need. For websites that are more informational, you're not collecting any data at all. You're just showing information. The lowest level SSLs would probably work fine. But if you are in e-commerce or let's say even banking or finance, we're collecting a lot of personal information, that you need the highest grade. So SSL certificates start as low as $60, but it can go up to $1,000 per year, just depending on the platform, or depending on the provider. There are free options, but I would be careful with these free options because at the end of the day, you'll get what you pay for. SSL certificates are important, are very, very important to Google. Because Google will penalize you if you don't have an SSL certificate properly installed on your website. And overall, it's a benefit to you as a business owner because it protects the visitor and also protects you from any litigation or negligence because you don't have the proper security protocols installed. So it's good to have. It's very, very important to have SSL certificates on your website. The next area of SEO is mobile optimization. So mobile optimization is really about how friendly is your website to mobile devices. Does it render well on cell phones, on tablets, whether it's an iPad or Android tablet or iPad or Apple or Android phone, whatever that is. Will your website contort or shape itself and put will the website content show up and contort itself so it's easily read on those types of devices? Obviously, mobile devices are a lot smaller than desktop devices, so you want to make sure that everything is just easy to read and easy to follow with people with fingers and thumbs and all that type of thing. I'm not going to go over this slide too much. I just want to provide this information as far as how important mobile optimization is. But the most important fact here is the last one. Google ranks based on the mobile version of your website, not your desktop. So if you have a great mobile experience, you're going to get more bonus points for that, and you're ranked higher than those who don't have a great mobile experience. Things to watch out for when you think about making your website more mobile friendly. First is image and video availability. Are your images sized correctly? Does the video take up too much space? On many platforms, there's a way where you can turn off video just for mobile devices, and it'll still stay visible on desktop devices. That's maybe an option that you want to explore. Is your text legible? Meaning, is the text font dark enough, and is the text large enough for people to be able to read the content on your website? Clickability. Can people click on buttons with their thumbs and fingers? Is there enough space between those buttons? That's very, very important. Your loading speed is much more important on mobile devices than it is on desktop. Because chances are, if people are accessing content on the website, people are accessing content on their cell phones or devices, they have even shorter patience than they do on a desktop. So it has to load much faster. And lastly, delete or remove pop-ups from the mobile version of your website. Obviously, on desktop version of the website, we'll see pop-ups for people to enter their contact information, sometimes for newsletter or to advertise different sales and things like that. You want to eliminate that on mobile devices, right? Because people are working with a much smaller screen, and that pop-up may take up half the screen size, and it just frustrates people. So just be careful with that. Here's another tool that you can use, provided by Google to help to test how mobile friendly your website is. I would use this tool, but then at the same time, I would also use an eyeball test, meaning I would test out your website on different devices before making any changes. A lot of these tools, some of them I've shared, and several else that are out there, they are very strict when it comes to their testing methods. So just keep in mind that you should also include the eyeball test before making any drastic changes to your website. Okay. The next thing are links. So there are 3 types of links that SEO Google really takes into account. The first is internal links. And internal links is really it's really more about linking to your own content that helps tie pages together for both search engines and your visitors, making each page more valuable. So think about, what is your primary goal page? What is the page that you want people to go to? Is it a contact us page? Is it a product page? Is it a specific? Is it another page? Whatever that is. if you have several links going to that one page, Google will understand that this is a very valuable page that deserves some type of ranking, right? You want to avoid what's called orphan pages. And orphan pages are pretty much when the only way to get to that website or that web page is through the website, it's just typing the website address, meaning there's no other pages forwarding or linking to that page. Okay. I also just on a side note, your most important pages should be no more than 3 clicks away from any other page, right? If they're buried pages or if it's deep to that page, chances are people aren't going to find it. People online are generally less patient, so you want to make it easier for them to find the content that you really want to promote. Okay. Another link is outbound links. So links that go to other websites. So you want to show that you're creating quality content, for your visitors. That involves using outbound links by linking to relevant authoritative sites in your niche. And so you'll use those outbound or those other pages as ways to build credibility, as ways to support what your message or what you're trying to say. But be careful. That doesn't mean you have to, have tons of outbound links, but a couple of here and there are helpful. So it could be a link to a chamber of commerce. It could be a link to an article. It could be a link to an industry association or whatever. Obviously, you don't want to link to competitors, but you do want to link to just some good supporting organizations or supporting content that's online. With outbound links, though, you have to check it from time to time because things change. You have no control over what somebody else posts or how somebody else manages their website. So if a piece of article that you link to disappears and you still have the link on your website, that creates a broken link. And again, broken links aren't good for SEO. So you'll have to, from time to time, you do have to check on those links. A big area of SEO is called inbound links or backlinks. So an inbound link is pretty much when another website refers to your website, right? Now, years ago, the theory was the more inbound links I had, the better. Well, people took that and people started cheating and they started to create these dummy pages that refer to their website, and it created a big mess. Google now kind of altered that and is now evaluating at the referring page itself. So, for example, if your website is listed on Disney.com, and we know Disney is a very powerful online contributor. They get millions of visitors an hour, it seems like, a well-known brand, things like that. If you're linked to them, then your backlink score goes through the roof. If you're linked to a website that was just created 2 hours ago, just published 2 hours ago, then you're not going to get the same score, or you're not going to get the points for that. It's not going to necessarily hurt you, but it won't help you either. The only way a backlink would hurt you is if the page that's referring to you goes against your branding or it tries to hurt your reputation. That's the only time. Some tools to help you get an understanding of what your backlinks are. I would use Google Analytics, first of all. Google Analytics is a free tool from Google that helps analyze how people interact with your website. There's a report that will tell you what your referral sources are. Another tool I would use is called Google Alerts. Google Alerts is a tool that will notify you every time a new website pops up that has your name or your website address. And then there's other paid tools like SEMrush that are available that can help determine what your backlinks are as well. Just some keys to creating backlinks is really lasting relationships with the right people. Journalists and bloggers are always creating content, so it's a great idea to network with them and speak with them, see how you can partner with them to create content for them. There are websites like Quoted, QWOTED.com, and HelpAReporterOut.com, where act as a matchmaker between an industry expert and a journalist, where you come together and create content. Like I said, journalists They're always looking for content. They're always asking for content. It's just a matter of going to the right places where they're at and connecting with them and seeing and seeing if there's something that you guys can work on. Chambers of commerce and industry associations are great ways to get backlinks as well. Chambers of commerces and industry associations have what's called directories, and you can list your information there, and that creates backlinks as well. One of the mistakes I've seen from local business owners is that they're a member of Chamber of Commerce, but they're not filling out their profile, which is published online. So that's a missed opportunity for that. So if you're part of a Chamber of Commerce industry association, look into the directory and see if your content, if your listing or your information is listed correctly and is complete. Another area is local search. So local search or local SEO is really telling Google and these other platforms that you are located in a specific area and or you cover or serve a specific area. I'm not going to go over the details of this, but a couple of things to note is that 86% of consumers use Google Maps to find a local business. So I talked about earlier how people online are a little bit less patient. They want a fast solution and they want a nearby solution when it comes to the things they're looking for. How do you rank well for local search? Versus proximity. How close is your business to the searcher? Relevance. How relevant is the search query with your products and services? And then prominence is what are people saying about your products and services? In other words, what are the Google reviews, Facebook, Yelp reviews, Better Business reviews? What are they all saying? Google search, like I said, Google's a solutions engine, and one of the things they look at is those reviews, and they want to make sure that what they recommend is of top quality based off what other people are saying. So what do you need for local search? Obviously, you need relevant on-page content. You don't necessarily need a separate website, but on your website, it should say what service areas you cover. Do you cover the greater Orlando area, specific counties, specific states? What are those things? Those local backlinks, local chambers of commerces, local influencers, things like that. Like I said earlier, reviews. Do you have a Google My Business profile? Are you doing a good job of promoting your business on other online platforms? Do they have the correct information about your business? Things like that. This next slide. Okay, so this next slide is a list of search directories that you can register for. A majority of them are free. I would do as many as you can. You don't necessarily need to do all of them because all of them won't fit for every type of business. For example, a doctor probably shouldn't be listed on AngelList or HomeAdvisor, but can be listed on Bing, Yahoo, of course, MapQuest, and those platforms. And so just keep in mind obviously who you are, what you do, and how you want to present yourself, and go accordingly. So these are just a few. There are a bunch more out there, but it's good to just start registering with as many as possible that make sense to you and your business. This is a tool that I use often called Yext.com. They have a business scan component where I can scan not a website, but a person's business's contact information to see how search directories have them listed. The most important, obviously, the least important the least important to me is the status column, except for what's in red. Because if it's in yellow, that means it's not verified through Yext. You can pay Yext to do this for you, or you can register for each one by one. It's up to you. But I kind of ignore the yellow status one. The red one, obviously, says there's an error. There's some type of mistake there. And I just kind of analyze what the mistake is. As you can see here in this example, the mistake here, or according to Yext, is that the name is different. Now, to me, when I read this, obviously the name of the practice is called Health Quest Chiropractic, and located in Pittsburgh. They use Health Quest Chiropractic, Greg Simonic, DC. To me, that's not far off. That's something I wouldn't worry about. But if it's the information is off, way off, and not even the same ballpark, then I'll go in and edit that listing. But this is a cool way to see, a cool and easy way to see how search engines, or how search directories are listing your information. Okay. If you're a business that has multiple locations, I would treat each location almost like its own business. You know, everything separate. You may not have the bandwidth to build a page for each location, and that's fine. But try to create, try to create separate listings on Google and some of these other search directory platforms. Make sure you're building backlinks and citations that speak specifically about that location. Collect reviews for each location, things like that. Like I said, ideally, your each location is its own business. Okay. So the next area I want to get into is slightly more advanced from what we've been talking about. And so this is a search that I did recently on how to protect yourself from identity theft. This is, for the most part, this is what a common search engine listing looks like, right? Now, I want you to pay close attention to this area right here, right? So this right here is called the featured snippet section. And featured snippets are short snippets of text that appear at the top of Google search results in order to quickly answer a search query. Remember when I said Google wants to be a solutions engine, not just a search engine? This is one way. This is one way they do that. Is providing quick answers at the very top. And notice how prominent it is, and how eye-catching it is for searchers. So, so it makes sense that this type of content will get a higher click-through rate because of how it pops out. Another area to look at is called the people also ask section. So these are common questions people are asking, and if you click on the answer, 2 more questions will pop up, right? So as business owners, you want to position your website as not only a sales agent, but also a resource agent for people, because people are always asking questions and trying to get insight and trying to get some type of information to make a decision. So how do you get featured snippets? This YouTube, I highly recommend watching this YouTube video. It's a 13-minute long video. I would play here, but I don't want to go over our time. It's a great description of how to get featured snippets. And I kind of outline the steps. First, you want to research the questions. What questions are people asking? Obviously, a great source is that people also ask questions. You can use Google itself. If you start typing into Google, Google will try to predict what you're trying to say. There's a reason for that. They notice that there's a trend in people asking those similar types of questions. So keep note of those types of things. Also, tools like answerthepublic.com. It's a tool that you get 2 free searches per day that allows you to research what questions people are typing onto different platforms. After you get an idea of what those questions are, start planning and creating your content, and then format your content correctly. So what I mean by formatting is, it seems that Google favors bullet-pointed lists and numbers more than any type of platform, any type of format. Additionally, videos work well, tables work well as well. You just want to avoid, just a block of paragraphs as much as you can. So list format, table format, videos, those work better than just block of paragraphs. Use images in your content. And then lastly, you want to mark up your content with structured data. So structured data is pretty much an extra level of information to provide context to search engines. So let me give you an example. So we see the word avatar, right? When we think of avatar, most people think of the movie that was released several years ago. Avatar has also a religious, spiritual connotation as well. Avatar is also an icon or figure representing a person in video games and different digital platforms. So the same word will have three meanings. Schema will help, or substitute. A schema is a type of structured data. Structured data is will provide an extra layer of information, so search engines know when to list what to who. So in theory, structured data will help you get the right people to your site. Here's some more information about structured data. Schema is the most common type of structured data available. I highly recommend just checking out the website schema.org and also the Google resources as well. For most platforms, you don't have to worry about coding or figuring out special ways to add structured data. A lot of WordPress has different plugins you can use. I know there's Wix and Weebly have ways to add structured data without having to do anything special. It's just a matter of just adding more information about the website or about the content, so Google can better understand what's going on and how it should list the content. A tool that I highly recommend using, regardless of industry, regarding who you are, is Google Search Console. Google Search Console is a tool that allows you to get an understanding of how Google sees your website. It'll give you reports to see what's being indexed, what's not being indexed. It'll show you what keywords people are using for your website to be listed. It just gives you a lot of overall performance information that's very valuable, and it could be very useful to your on-page content creation. Here's a summary of some of the tools, some tools. I kind of already went over the website speed, mobile friendly. Google Analytics, I kind of talked about that briefly earlier. Google Analytics is a great tool coupled with Google Search Console to get a holistic view of how people are engaging with your website, what pages they visit, how much time they spend on your website, things like that. WooRank is a tool that we have at SBDC. We have a subscription to them. It's pretty much an SEO grader. It tells us what are the strengths and weak spots of each website when it comes to SEO. If you want a free WooRank report, feel free to either contact your SBDC consultant if you're working with someone, or you can contact me if you're not working with someone. So before I close this, I kind of want to talk about briefly what the buyer's journey is. And if you Google online buyer's journey, you're going to see different models. You'll see a 3-step model, 5-step model, 7-step, whatever. It's pretty much a process of how people go from identifying there's an issue to making a purchase. So here, I'm just going to talk about the previous 3-step model. The awareness section, the awareness phase is when someone realizes that there's an issue, there's a problem with their that they need to resolve, right? Consideration is when they start doing the research. They're trying to figure out, okay, what are the best solutions? And that's where search engines comes into play. And then the decision is actually the purchase. So as you're building your content, your website, online content, you want to keep in mind the buyer's journey. What are common problems that would lead to people looking for solutions, right? What kind of language are people going to type in into searching? What platforms are they going to use? How are they going to describe certain things? All those things matter when it comes to search engine optimization. And with that, that's it. Any questions?
Yes, we do have a few questions.
Right.
How often do you recommend refreshing content or images?
I would say it depends on what you're going to do. If you're doing light content, light updates, like let's say you're updating Word or updating information, once every couple of months are fine. I wouldn't. It's fine. Yeah, you don't have to do anything like that. If you're trying to overhaul a whole website, I probably wouldn't do that for like once every couple of years or so, because if you do that, especially if you're a business provider that relies on repeat customers, you want to make it easy for the repeat customers to find content. So for an entire website, every couple of years or so, that's the most often I would do it. For like light changes, like blogging or just content, maybe once every couple of months is fine.
Great. Our next question is about alt attributes.
Mhm.
If we change the text in the code in the area you mentioned
Mhm.
from the image 7043
Mhm.
to office,
Mhm.
all they have to do is change the text in the code, correct?
Yeah, you don't have to go into the code itself. If you go into, I don't know, depending on the platform you use, go to where you upload the image, where you click on that, and then it's gonna ask for information like description, alt attribute, alt text, alt tag. They all mean the same thing. Just update it there. You don't have to worry about the code.
Awesome. Can you change an image alt name and an SRC name after they've been uploaded?
Yes, yes. Just go to just like I said earlier, just go to where you uploaded the image or the image library of your website, and then just make the changes there, and just give it some time, a couple hours. Google search crawlers will crawl quite often, and they'll notice the update.
Does Wix offer good speed?
Yes, Wix is actually a very good platform, especially for DIY projects. It does a lot. It offers good speed, but what I highly recommend with Wix is using the Google query or there's like a Google search wizard. I would highly go through those steps to help you with SEO for your website.
For alt attributes, does this include GIFs as well as static images?
Yes.
For the backlinks, what were the tools to check out what backlinks exist?
Okay. So you can use Google Alerts. Google Alerts is a tool that will email you every time someone lists your website on their website or on their content. Then there is Google Alerts. There's Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a tool that I highly recommend using. There's a report there that lists referral sources. The thing with Google Analytics though is that it won't be listed. You won't know if it's a referral source until somebody clicks on that link that leads to your website. There's also what's called SEMrush, SEM Rush, all one word. That is a paid subscription that can list all your backlinks. But if you email me, contact me, WooRank does have the capability of listing some, not all, backlinks. So there's tools. Those are popular tools.
And I know you mentioned our subscription with WooRank. We are able to do those analytics for you when you meet with a consultant. But the next question is regarding WooRank. They just received a WooRank score of 48. Should they consider paying for their service?
Whose service? WooRank service?
Yes.
WooRank just kind of tells you what what needs improvement. They won't fix it. It's up to, as far as like making this SEO improvements, it's up to the website developer or whoever's managing the website. I'm assuming that person who's has a 48, they're a client. I would just contact me and we can talk about further. But yeah, a 48 is not far off. Just to give you some insight on that, a 48, WooRank scales on a 0 to 100, but nobody gets. It's hard. It's very difficult to get above a 90, and the large corporations usually are the ones that get the 80s. So if you're in the mid 50s as a small business, you're not doing bad. A 48 is not far off from that. There's just probably some simple things that we can do to fix that. Any more questions? Teresa?
Sorry about that. I was talking and I didn't realize I was not, I was muted. Apologies. So the next question is, WooRank showed errors as the issue. How do they find out where those errors are?
Contact me and I can help identify that. It just depends on the error. I have to look at it. But yeah, they can contact me and I can help them out with that.
Exactly. When I see those reports, it depends on which report. WooRank was able to show you.
Mhm.
All right, I think that's all the questions we have right now, Jairo.
Awesome.
So I just want to take the moment to, good show, Jairo. Somebody just asked the question of where your info was. It's in the PDF of the handout that you have in your GoToWebinar panel. It should be under your handouts tab. This entire presentation is in there. That's it. Okay, so we will be sending out an evaluation link for this presentation about an hour after we finish. If you can, please, we really would like for everyone to respond if they can. That way we know how well we did or whether or not we need to modify this presentation, or let us know if you guys have any suggestions for other presentations as well. All right, that's all the questions, Jairo. Anything else before we go?
No, I mean, thanks you all for attending. I appreciate it. If you're new to SBDC, feel free to go to this link right here and complete a request for consulting form. I'd be glad to help you out. If you're already working with an SBDC consultant, feel free to schedule an appointment with your consultant, and then we can, I can be looped in to help you with your website and SEO.
Great. All right, thank you everyone, and we hope to see you either virtually again or in person. Everyone have a wonderful day.